Hello everyone, today we're joined by one of this country's best media presenters, Talk Radio's Julia Hartley-Brewer. Welcome to the show.
Well, that's
Julia.
the nicest intro I've ever had.
Yeah. We're not shaking hands, but we're doing the jazz hands.
Yeah, yes.
So how is everything going?
Everything's going. I don't know about you, I had a really hard weekend. I was feeling really quite upset and anxious about what's going to happen over the next few... Well, again, it's not weeks, it's months. And now there might be a whole year. And I think a lot of concern about elderly parents, the grandparents, and having to cut off contacts, and I think it's going to be a really rough few months ahead.
Yeah, and then I think there are some. The problem is obviously everybody's going through it. The whole world is going through it, basically.
You're right. It's not just like one region or one generation.
Which you think it's good because it will create solidarity, but everyone's attacking everyone for some reason. Like you've seen how some people in the media are reacting to the news and everything.
There are some people who are there's a difference between. I'm all in favour of people questioning government policy. It's a democracy. That's what we do. Questioning policy is how you make sure you get the best policy, whether you're opposition, whether you're a backbench MP, or whether you're in the media. I think some of the hysteria, which is around why aren't we doing what Italy's doing? I find quite bizarre because we're not where Italy is right now. We will be in a few weeks, but the idea that that the government policy is being made up on the hoof and is just sort of, these countries have done this and it's all working, but we just won't bother because we're not bothered if a few million people in this country die. I mean, it's quite bizarre. If people think that genuinely, I'm quite worried for them. It's quite clear that our government policy, and again, I'm not a cheerleader for this government. I'm not a Boris devotee or anything. Not at all. I speak as I find. But when the Chief Medical Officer, Professor Chris Whitty, and the Sir Patrick Vallance, the Chief Scientific Advisor, who are eminently qualified in their fields, they're not random. You'll do political appointees. These are two of the most eminent scientists and medics in their fields, and with a team of people behind them. When they say we're going to do this, that doesn't feel like a really populist thing to do and isn't a knee-jerk reaction, and we're doing it for these reasons, and they explained them last week, I think we should listen to them. Yeah, you're right, because when it comes to the UK government strategy with this whole situation, I would have been, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised, because you would have been expecting someone like Boris Johnson to come out like very populist, very loud, airport
shut down everything, privatise, no, that was something going privatise everything. But actually, they've been quite sensible, and now you have the people.
It's been very measured.
Yeah, and then you have the people who until now they were claiming that they're the sensible moderate ones, like Rory Stewart coming out and saying, "Shut down the country." But
that's the thing about to govern is to choose, and you have to make difficult decisions. And there is an argument about you can do nothing, you can do something that has a knock-on, indirect, negative, long-term consequences far greater than what you're trying to deal with at that time, and those are the economic costs, and indeed the long-term health costs for your nation if you do go into quarantine too soon or you leave the bug out there. At the moment, we're going to have to come out one day and it's still going to be there. And there's that, but there's also this idea that doing nothing sometimes for a period of time, as long as you're not just ignoring it, you're not just putting your head in the sand, but may sometimes be the right thing. What Whitty and Vallance explained about the policy satisfies me. They're doing the right thing, and the idea that Italy's got it right, no they haven't, America ain't got it right, France and Germany are doing very well in terms of number of deaths. They've got a very healthy population, not so older as well. South Korea, again, very different circumstances, and we each country's going to have a different position to come from.
I think you're right, you can't compare countries because there's so many differences in terms of the population, the way healthcare is, the government. Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's quite silly because otherwise, Iran should not be in the situation if it was based on the government being kind of strong or stable. So that's kind of the situation we have. But you mentioned Germany and Italy, a couple of places in Europe. Now Europe, and that's been technically run by an elitist organisation, the European Union, and they've been quite proud of. We have now created Europe. We are now one family, basically a borderless
federation.
Continent. What's happening there? Where are the borders?
How those borders working out for you now? It's extraordinary and very predictable. For actually, it's every man for themselves. Let's face it. If we've got a load of ventilators, we ain't going to be sending them to Italy or Germany. We're going to be keeping them for British people. This idea that the end of the nation state, nonsense. This is the point when, and it's not nasty, xenophobic. It's just You know who I'm most worried about? My family. And they're my friends, my colleagues, my neighbours, people in my street, people in my town, people in my country, and then I've got time to worry about people in France.
Yeah.
And then I've got time to worry about people in, say, Uganda.
Exactly.
I mean that's the reality. That is the nature of being a human being, of our closeness to individual people and who we care about the most. And it seems to me, yes, this idea that, look, the ECB, European Central Bank, not bailing out Italy, no chance of it happening, putting the euro above the good of the Italian nation collapsing, the Germans closing their borders largely around, and France as well, and Spain, basically to protect their own people. That is what governments do. The first job of a government is to keep their borders safe. And again, the Schengen area, this free movement, has been, I think, an absolute disaster in lots of ways for the European continent, and I think it's also going to break. I mean, people say don't bring the politics into it, but it is political. And there is going to be a knock-on effect of what has the EU done for us? Being part of this big organisation, a lot of these countries, particularly in Italy, very big anti-European feeling there already. What did they do for us in our time of crisis, in our time of need? And the answer is a big fat zero.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right. And I think the way I see the European Union right now managing this is that they're like one of these teachers at a very bad school where they say these are the rules to the kids, and then when there's a problem, the kids are not really following the rules. And right now, look, Germany is closing the borders, Austria is closing the borders. The European Union, if they were really serious about their project and actually saying the only way we can survive this problem is just be one family, they would have done something about it. But the inaction from Brussels is hilariously weird.
Well, it's sickly. I mean, it's weird. But again, it's a big unaccountable bureaucracy, and that's what you don't want. Really. I'm sorry, we are going to be seeing emergency powers being brought in, and you need governments who can do that.
No, you're right. But I mean, generally, there are also other people during this whole problem. For example, you've got businesses. You got Richard Branson, like one of the Virgin, who comes out now says we
need a bailout.
We need a bailout, and I understand the case for it. But my issue with that is this is the same person who, past few years, he was saying that we don't need the UK. I'm very pro European Union.
Yeah, ask the EU for your bailout.
Yeah, why are you asking us?
I think it's going to be a bit rich for a lot of people who are really struggling. Bearing in mind, people, we're allowed to have statutory sick pay, £94 a week. Most people can't pay their rent on that. There'll be millions of people who are going to be out of work as a result of this, and who are going to be off work for long periods of time because there's no one buying anything in the shops. There's no one going to the cinema. No one doing lots of those things. Who are going to say, what is a billionaire sitting on an island in the Caribbean asking for a bailout from the government? That said, we are going to, when we get through this, we are going to need closed shops again, and cinemas, and theatres, and restaurants, and bars, and pubs, and airlines, and travel companies, and hotels. We're going to want those things to still exist. And realistically, if we let all those businesses go under, it's going to take a lot longer for them us to rebuild our economy. I think right now is the time for the government, not necessarily on bailouts, but the key thing, deferring all taxes, VAT. The government can borrow at virtually zero, borrow the money, keep everybody afloat, just liquidity, just so people still can keep employing people. It's going to be a knock-on cost for the government anyway, the taxpayer, when we're bailing everyone out who's unemployed and all these companies that go bankrupt. I think we just need to go into a holding pattern for the next 6 months, and then we start again. And I think we're better off having those companies and that expertise in place. I think for all of us in the long run it would be better. That said, if an airline, anything like that, if big companies want bailouts, you're going to have to give us a share of your company, or you're going to have to pay it back. You ain't making any profits for the next 10 years because you're paying us back.
Well, it's not just a handout. And you're right. And I think it's kind of like if it gets bad, and we might get really bad for the next few months. And so afterwards, you're right. Sometimes you do need some emergency measures, kind of like what happened after 1918. These sort of things happen to bring the country together, bring the world together at this point.
It's going to be cheaper in the long run for us to do that. And there'll be a lot of people saying, no, let businesses fail. No, a business that can't compete in the marketplace should be allowed to fail, because that's what capitalism does. That's different from everyone's failing. It's not their fault. You cannot possibly plan for there to be no one on the streets for months on end. You can't run a business on that basis. No business can survive that. I don't know, buy shares in supermarkets, I suppose, is the advice. Shares in supermarkets and Netflix.
Speaking of which, are you panic buying?
I'm not panic buying.
What's your opinion on the whole situation?
I think it's incredibly selfish.
Well, actually, that's what I thought.
I think also it's needless. There's no, shops are going to stay open. Hopefully, when all the panic buyers have finished panic buying, everyone else can just carry on as normal. I did see something that, Mensa now offering new IQ tests. Your IQ now is 130 minus the number of toilet rolls you've got in your house. And I've got a big cupboard under the stairs. I always have sort of 3 packets of 9 loo rolls, so I've got really low IQ on that basis. But I think a lot of people, look, they're stocking up. Eventually, their cupboards are going to be full of bog roll and pasta.
And hot.
And then they're going to leave the rest of it to us. But I really admire shops like Iceland are saying we're going to open our shops.
Between 8 and 9?
Yeah. So when the first stocks come in, we'll let the people who really need it, the vulnerable, the elderly, get into the shops before they're crowded and buy the food they need. Not so easy for a lot of elderly people to be up for 8 o'clock.
It'll be quite tricky because some of them will have to send someone younger to do the shopping. So unless maybe, I don't know, if they...
Well, I think we may be into sort of not ration card territory, but some sort of, if there could be issuing, people who are vulnerable, who need that extra help. I mean, my main concern is that we all help the people around us, so we help our elderly relatives, but also people around us. I've written to my neighbours, I've got email addresses saying, look, I know you're elderly, you're on your own. If I can help, my husband can help do anything for you, do your shopping. Just let me know if you need anything. And if everyone does that, if we all just drop a note, a few houses in the street, and just pass the word along and say, can you ask people we can all get through this. And you know what? We're going to get to know a lot of our family members very well indeed in the next few months. And we can maybe get to know our neighbours. At least let something good come out of it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is why I'm hoping. I know this, again, the issue is not political, but it is political in a sense that it's everyday life. And I hope that, I know countries are different, cultures are different, but at least we're talking about this country. I hope that this would bring out what I always kind of advocate in politics, the true nature of humanism and basically classical liberalism. You care about your own, but you also care about others.
We will be able to help each other. Yeah, absolutely. And I also do think, can you say, lucky stars, whatever you think of Boris Johnson and his government and the people he's got in government right now, lots of people didn't vote for him. No. Or people know, it wasn't their ideal. Some people voted just because they wanted Brexit, but he wasn't ideal. I wake up every day, and I will do for the next few months where we're in quarantine and isolation, thanking our lucky stars as a country that we do not have Jeremy Corbyn, John McDonnell, and Diane Abbott, Richard Bergen running this country right now through this crisis. And thank God the British electorate had the sense, whatever mistakes this government makes, and they will make mistakes, and they will be blamed for everything that goes wrong and get no credit for everything that goes right. I would rather have this lot in charge than the alternative.
Because otherwise, you're right. If we had Jeremy Corbyn right now, we would have right now been in the middle of the referendum to vote on how to deal with this problem.
I think that might be off. Yeah, there is that. Yeah, no, citizens. There are people on the left now currently calling for citizens' assemblies to decide what we should do. I'm fairly bright. I'm fairly aware. I've talked to a lot of experts all the time. I am willing to say that there are people who know sight more than I do about this, and I will bow. Witty and balanced. You're not going to get 2 people with better qualifications in this. Every virologist, every expert I've spoken to has said they think what they're doing is the right thing. It's not populist, it's not knee-jerk, it's not televisual, it's not big headlines, but you know what? They're doing the right thing, and I would much rather that we let the experts make the decisions and we followed what they did. And there are going to be downsides to every policy. There are going to be costs, but we need people who will be brave and do the right thing.
Yes.
And we need a little bit of doing the right thing from everybody, from the experts, from government, from politicians. And that doesn't mean not asking questions, as I said at the start. It does mean we ask questions.
It's not blind faith.
Not blind faith, but I don't think we should just automatically criticise everything, because it's not what Italy's doing.
Well, we all became somehow experts in health in the last few weeks.
We were all experts on constitutional law a year ago, and then international trade earlier
and now
this year. And now we're an expert on coronavirus.
But so we'll see how it goes in the next few months.
We will.
I will Skype you from self-isolation.
Let's
see how it goes. But thanks again for coming on the show, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.